Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Soul Speaks Forensic 101, the channel where the dead do the talking and the toxins keep on walking. The topic for the day is mental disorder and responsibility. Now, responsibility here, I mean it in the legal sense, which basically means the liability that an individual has for his or her acts or omissions. Now, if those acts or omissions are against the law decides whether the individual must be punished for them. But when the said individual is somebody who's suffering from a mental illness, the entire liability aspect takes on a new form. Now, responsibility in the legal sense is basically divided into two major categories. The first one is called as the civil responsibility of the mentally ill, and the second one is the criminal responsibility. Now, as the name suggests, civil responsibility deals with civil matters, whereas criminal responsibility deals with actual crimes. Today's episode is completely dedicated to the civil responsibility of a mentally ill individual. Now, it has a variety of aspects that must be considered. The first among them is the management of property and affairs. Now, in this scenario, the court may appoint an individual to be a guardian for the mentally ill individual as well as manage the individual's property and affairs. The second important aspect of civil responsibility is the ability of a mentally ill individual to provide a consent. As per Indian law and section 90 of the Indian Penal Code, the consent which is given by an individual who is mentally ill or intoxicated or someone who is unable to understand the nature and consequences of that particular consent cannot provide a valid and legally binding form of consent. This is important in the context of medical practice, primarily because a doctor cannot take a valid consent from a mentally ill individual and perform an examination or a procedure. Similar to consents is the third aspect of civil responsibility, that is contracts. As per Indian law, an individual who is mentally unsound cannot enter into a valid contract. However, there is an exception that an individual, when he is in the state of a lucid interval, can enter into a contract which is considered legally binding. The next aspect of civil responsibility involves marriage. Now, as per the Hindu Marriage Act, a marriage can be declared null and void if one of the individuals at the time of the marriage was mentally unsound or was incapable of giving a valid consent. Now, this is also there in the Muslim Marriages Act. A woman can obtain divorce from the husband on the grounds of the husband's insanity. Another very important aspect of civil responsibility of mentally ill individual lies in the testamentary capacity of that individual. Now, what testamentary capacity is? It is the capacity of a person to make a valid will. Now, the law states that for a will to be valid, the individual must be compos mentis, which basically means that he must have a sound and disposing mind. But any individual with mental unsoundness or mental disorders cannot be declared as compos mentis and hence cannot make a valid will. The last but equally important aspect of civil responsibility is the competency of an individual to be a witness in the court of law. Now, as per section 118 of the Indian Evidence Act, a mentally ill individual cannot be a competent witness in the court of law if the illness is of such a nature that it is preventing that individual from understanding the questions that are being put to him and the answers that he is giving. The Indian Code of Criminal Procedure sections 328 to 339 actually deal with the responsibilities of a mentally ill individual. Now, that's an MCQ for you guys. I hope you guys had a productive session. I hope you got a bit of an idea about the civil responsibility of a mentally ill person. Do send in your reviews and your comments. This is Dr. Som checking out of Forensic 101. Ciao.